1. Okay, we are live. Welcome. I got Nate Trosky with me. Nate, thank you so much, man. Welcome to the Robby Row Show. How's your day going?
Doing good, Robby. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good time. My day's going good. Yeah, I just came in. I live on a ranch out in the mountains in Big Sur, so I just drove in to make sure I have some internet, good connection, and we're doing some filming right now. We're working on some new videos, especially because of this lockdown time. So we're working on a series of stuff, and it's pretty cool trying to keep these guys busy and motivated and getting better during this challenging time. So
right.
It's been extra busy right now, really, because we're doing so much video stuff, and so it's been great. So we're going to do some shooting right after I get done. We're done talking today with you.
Right. Yeah. So I got to ask, so out where you live, I know you just said you rolled in to get some Wi-Fi. Do you not have Wi-Fi out there?
I was there for 15 years. I just got it like the last 2 years.
No
so I didn't
kidding.
have cell coverage or Wi-Fi. Yeah.
That's complete freedom.
Well, it didn't even exist. It didn't exist. I lived too far out in the woods, so it wasn't even possible. Literally, not even possible.
Right.
And so once I cross the Bixby Bridge, I start going up. There's the cell and everything's out. And that was for the 12 years. And then what I would have to do if I wanted to really text someone or like call someone, I would have to I would go for a jog up to the top of the mountain or get on my quad and go to the very top, about 3,000 feet up. Mountain, very, very high. And you could see ocean views and redwood trees. And so I did that for years. When I was, I had to make an important work call. Like my boss with the Brewers, he'd call me up and he'd say, we need to talk tomorrow at 10. I'm like, shoot, to get on the quad or just go for a run, charge the mountain. I'll be on the top of the mountain and get my signal. I'm out there talking to him. Then I'd just shut it down and go back to the cabin.
Right.
So we got it though the last 2 years, and it's been super helpful because then I don't have to come to town so much. Before I'd have to come to town every day if I wanted to, do internet stuff or phone stuff. But now I'm able to do a lot of work at home and stay in the cabin and be right there. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I know. When my dad first retired, this was like 97, we got a trailer and we moved out on acreage in the woods. And it was like, I was too young, right? So it wasn't even like Wi-Fi was like a crucial part of living at that time. We just got the PlayStation 2, which was super cool, but it was the same thing. We had like quads, dirt bikes out there, and it was like, I couldn't even imagine doing that nowadays because, like I said, Wi-Fi is so crucial, especially in a time like this, right? You mentioned like the whole quarantine, social distancing thing, right? And like connectivity to the outside world. That's a good segue into a question that I would have for you is like, how have you seen the advancements of the use of the video work in the game of baseball from the instruction side? You mentioned, you're going out to shoot a bunch of videos right now for all the stuff online. That's not something you had to do like 15, 20 years ago, right? That's kind of unheard of. So talk a little bit about that and how that's kind of evolved.
Okay, super. I think the video for me isn't so much of trying to be perfect. Imperfect perfection is really what this game is. I mean, we strive for perfection, but it's a very imperfect game, and imperfect in the concept of, if you look at your delivery and you look at Trevor Bauer's, I was just looking on your Twitter feed, you had an awesome overhead view of Trevor Bauer, right? Well, you look at his front side or where he's at in certain clicks of the video, when you pause, Trevor's going to he's going to have some essential places, that are absolutes, but there's going to be a lot of style and just a lot of personality in his delivery. So the video to me is more about, what are the 5 main checkpoints or 10 checkpoints or, what are the absolutes? Because if we micromanage anybody's delivery or anybody's movements, it creates problems. And that's one of the biggest problems, I think, today in the world we're in is micromanaging movements. And that's a problem because you take the athleticism and you take the organization, which the individual, the body will organize itself. The mind is right, the body will sequence, and your sequence is a little different than mine. And I don't necessarily have to have a perfect sequence to be a great pitcher that can repeat his delivery, because my sequence might allow me to throw 92 and allow me to have great command, and that could be good enough. I don't necessarily need to throw 98. So I really have to always get it to the next level, not necessarily, because this is a game and we're humans. We have the human element, and then we have the element of this is a game. And so that element to me is much more important than am I doing things perfect. But like as an infielder, you have to be on time with your feet.
Sure.
I mean, to get a good read. But I mean, just in the last week, I'm spending more time watching video, and I was watching this highlight video of major league shortstops, and it's really, it's kind of mind blowing how many of the shortstops are not on time. Because it'll show them make a great play, and the majority of these great plays, at least like half, if you look at and you pause, because they have these views from behind the hitter, and it shows like the shortstop, and it's like, holy cow, that's one of the greatest plays we've ever seen. But hey, did you see how late he was on his pre-pitch? And did you see his launch position?
Right.
A large percentage of them are standing straight up like they're waiting for the bus. I'm not kidding. You're like, this guy is a plus athlete. He's got plus twitch, right? His hand-eye coordination is ridiculous. But could you imagine if he was actually on time and he was actually in a launch? I mean, try to steal from that position right there. You'd be thrown out every time unless you're a plus runner. But you can get away with bad posture, right? If you're like a 6'4" runner, you could take any lead you want because you're going to be safe like 98% of the time. So what happens is these guys get rewarded for doing things incorrect. And so the video has been pretty interesting watching the big leaguers and being with the area codes for over 15 years. I've really paid a lot of attention to the pre-pitch of these are the top drafted infielders in the country. And you watch them. And 3 years ago, I actually did this little survey. I was like surveying every infielder for all 8 teams in the upper class. And I did all like 4 to 6 teams back then for the underclass. And there was only one infielder out of every team that actually set up on time in a repeatable launch position, repeating the same launch. And so it'd be like you for a pitcher. What is your launch? Well, when your foot's down, what is your launch? Can you repeat like a hitter, right? When he gets his foot down, is he in the same launch? Well, if you can't repeat your launch,
right.
But the problem with defense is you only get the ball maybe twice in 140 pitches.
Yeah, repetitions.
Hitters get it. He knows it's coming, right? And the pitcher knows he has to deliver the ball. The defender gets so content, he gets so lazy. So the video has been interesting, not only from the teaching side, but from the observing side. And it just reinforced because over the last 20 years, I've actually paid significant attention. Every time I go to a big league game, I watch all the defenders and I watch how consistent they are with their setup and their timing. So consistency of just their posture, being on time and landing in an explosive launch position that promotes a great first step. Let me tell you, it's about an 80% poor, get graded poor. There's like a small percent. I was watching the Dodgers game. There was only one guy. Chase Utley was the only guy for 2 innings that repeated his launch on time in an explosive athletic position. I was watching the center fielder. I'm not going to give any names. I actually coached this guy with the area codes.
Making you look bad.
I'm watching him. He was literally like his feet were crossed sometimes when the ball's crossing on play. He's just cruising. He's looking around, looking down his feet. His feet are like this one time, this one time, this one time. I'm going, yeah, you're really talented. You can get away with it. But so the video side, we're using it to teach the essential. Then we let the body organize itself. So the video right now we're working on is footwork mastery, first step dominance. And there's never been a video like it because I've been in this game for a long time. And there's no video that actually shows you how to have a great first step within. There's about 10 first steps that an infielder makes. And one would be like a crossover, one would be a drop step, one's a deep drop step, one's a shallow drop step. So it actually, there's different, the feet will do little bit different things. Mm-hmm. Ball hit right at me, that's hard, versus a ball hit at me slow. So we're working on some really cool stuff there. So the video stuff to help guys at home master things that have really not been mastered. And I'll tell you, you take these area code infielders or these big leaguers or these minor leaguers, there's a large percentage of them that could get better at their launch, at their pre-pitch movement, at their first step. But we don't typically break it down. Now in pitching, they've done an amazing job. They break it
pitching and hitting.
Pitching and hitting, but from the infield side, catching a little bit more. There's not a lot of infield guys, and the ones that are, no one's really broken it down like I'm doing. So we just came out with a footwork series. It just came out about 3 days ago, and the sales were incredible. We did one tweet in 24 hours, and we had over 200 sales. It was amazing. And we have a bunch of series following that, covering 36 different plays an infielder makes. So basically, I categorize 36 different plays, and we put them in, basically call them variations and sequences. So each sequence has like 3 plays, and there's 3 different plays per sequence. So infielders can go out literally with their dad, mom, sister, their coach, college coach, anybody, and say, I'm going to work on this sequence today. I'm going to work on this sequence today. And then it breaks down each step from their first step to the route to the ball, to the fielding footwork, to the throwing footwork, to the release point, to the follow. So it basically just takes you from you pre-pitch all the way through the completion of the play, and it goes through 36 plays. So that's something we just finished, and it's been great.
I'll be sure to link that in the show notes too, for those of you guys listening that want to check that out. That'll be a direct link in the show notes. But I want to ask you. So it's funny because we always, especially me, someone who came out of high school that was constantly relying on athleticism, right? Even as a pitcher, it was like I wasn't micromanaged. I wasn't thinking, I got to get to peak of my leg lift, separate my hands. I got to make sure I'm balanced. It was just like I freaking lift my leg and throw. And as I got into pro ball, and all in good love from like the instructors and the coordinators, all about, okay, this kid's 18. Like there's so many things that we want to do hands on. And then you start thinking about that, robotic approach more times, right? Yeah. And now it's about getting back that athleticism. I'm interested in asking you, how is that something that you kind of teach your guys in a non-micromanaged way? Like how do you teach that athleticism kind of trumps all?
Well, one of the, I think, consciousness is key. So one, giving the information, but making them conscious that this is just information. And the greatest players, literally the greatest players, when you think of great infielders, Ozzie Smith, Ernie Banks, you could just go down. Any of these guys, you could take whoever you take. When you hang out with professionals and big leaguers, what you learn is that they don't micromanage. That's why they're big leaguers. Mm-hmm. So the secret is this. The secret is getting out of the way. That's the secret. The secret is, can you keep the main thing the main thing? Well, see, big leaguers know what the main thing is. So Mike Trout has like 3 things, like only, that he focuses on. He doesn't pay attention to grip. He doesn't pay attention to where his back elbow is exactly. So he's not measuring angles. They just hit, like you just said. And when you told me, when you got to the minor leagues and they started to reinvent you, basically I knew it was problem. Problems are coming.
Yeah.
They're coming like this.
Oh, they came.
And they won't go away. Because now what you're doing, you're thinking about what your body already knows how to do.
Always.
So you're getting in the way. And that's the biggest problem. Athleticism is natural. It's organic. The body will organize itself it will only do it if your mind is clear and free and committed to the goal at hand, right? So if my mind isn't committed to just simplicity, so the big league pitcher, if you can get into his head, he's just saying, I'm making pitches. And then he commits to that. And that's all he does. And then his body will organize. It like connects the dots. So he starts his delivery, starting point, finish point is making the pitch. Now, there's a space between. That space between will organize itself only if your mind is clear and committed to the do. Now, if your mind has any doubt, or if you're thinking as you move, as you know, what happens is the body will not organize itself. And what's happening is we're getting in the way of the self-organization, which is the greatest key and secret to being a master at anything, right? You put all the work in, and then you get out and you compete, and you become the master competitor, because you make dominating your goal, not how am I dominating. It's like, I already did the hows in practice. The how-tos are in practice. That's my process. Right. So I'll give you a quick example. I don't want to give too many names because I don't want to burn people. Sure. But so my nephew last year, it was his first year pitching, and he made the area codes this year. He committed as a sophomore on Division I scholarship. So he's good. He went from shortstop to pitcher. Last year, his first outing, he threw a perfect game. Second outing was a no-hitter. Third outing was a no-hitter. He walked 3 batters in like 27 innings. It's pretty remarkable. His ERA was like a .8. Okay, this year, and I'm his pitching coach, and I understand what you're talking about. Simplicity, right? But you still have to work on your delivery. But what is important in a pitcher's delivery? So what we focused on was direction, position of his head, and heel pressure. That was it. And tempo.
Yeah.
Those 4 things.
Usually takes care of the other things.
Okay. Now, and I picked this stuff up over the last 35 years. Now, everybody's talking about heel pressure now. I knew about it 20 years ago because I was hanging out with some great pitching guys and great hitting guys. All the hitting guys are talking about, anchor that heel. That stuff's been around forever.
Yeah.
And we've been teaching forever. So what happened is he worked on what I call the main things: heel pressure, position of your head, finish and direction, and then get your mind right, right?
Mm-hmm.
So over and over. So he was dominant. Once again, perfect game, no-hitter. Walk 3 and 27. I mean, come on, sub 1 ERA. Yeah. Now, this year he had a guy who just came back from the drive line. And he played college baseball, and now he's the official pitching coach. And he's an unbelievable guy. I love the guy. And he's very intuitive. He's smart. He knows what he's doing. But he started taking all these drills that Driveline does, and he started having my nephew do them all. Well, what do you think happened his first outing? Ball 1, ball 2, to the backstop. I'm not kidding. I'm back there. I'm going, are you kidding me? The first outing last year, when it was about tempo and attack, tempo and attack. And I'm timing his tempo. I said, that's 12 to 15 seconds. That's tempo.
Right.
Attack, tempo. Well, he was dominating. This year, he's thinking about actually all these moves, these artificial, we call them artificial moves. That means you're actually trying to do them.
Right.
Artificial moves actually ruin. I'm not kidding. This is first outing. I'm sitting there. First one, ball 1, second one, backstop. Walks the first batter. I go, you walked 3 batters in 27 innings. One game I watched him for the first 3 innings. He threw actually it was the first 15 batters. He threw 13 first pitch strikes. Well, he doesn't even throw first pitch strikes anymore. I mean, barely. I mean, it's like spin the cap. It's all going to the consciousness of letting people know and actually really making it where they understand that the masters of the game simplify the complex, and what they do is they focus on simplicity, but they know what to keep simple. So if I'm practicing complexity and I get in the game and I try to be simple, it's very hard.
Right.
Because now my mind is confused and I still think this complexity is what's going to make me a master. And heel pressure alone, just having a pitcher, and I worked with big league hitting guys and big league pitching guys for years, and I kept hearing this common theme: push your heel in the ground, right? This is years ago, okay? But I heard the pitching guys say it, then I heard the hitting guys say it. And then I told the hitting guys, I said, did you know the pitching guys are saying heel pressure? I told the hitting guys, I said, did you know the pitching guys are saying? And they're like, no, we don't pay attention to pitchers. Well, I go, there's something really powerful.
Why not?
Heel, you know what happens? Your body actually gets on time. The timing is like ridiculous when you can stay in your heel, because nothing gets out in front and leaks. So, we made that our teach. So then asking big league guys, and I mean, just any guy, really good pitching guys. It could be a high school guy. It could be anybody, just a good pitching guy. I say, what is the key trigger word you want to give your pitchers? But it's the same for hitters. And you keep getting the same thing: attack. Every guy. My buddy played in the big leagues, 20-game winner. I asked him, what's your key word? Attack. So I keep hearing it over and over. There's a trail that the masters leave behind, and one is the attack on every pitch. So if we can attack on every pitch, keep our heel grounded as we go forward, I mean, there's not much more you need to do, because the body will connect the dots from the starting point to the finish point. It will organize if the mind is right. But going back to how many guys actually get their minds right?
Right.
And if your minds are right, your body will not sequence. The sequencing is off. So, I think the consciousness is key. Making them known, and it's like on a daily thing. They have to be reminded. Hey, remember, there's nothing more valuable than your attack. The body will organize. Attack. So, partially that, and then two, I think it's a fine line. I mean, the Mickey Mantle story of Ted Williams is one of the all-time my favorites, and it shaped me who I am as a coach, along with many others. But this was a story. Mickey's in the All-Star game with Ted, and Ted is a micromanager, but in the game he wasn't. But he had the mind that was able to think about details and still keep it simple when he competed. Mm-hmm. So Ted was a special human being. Very few humans can do that. And once you start learning the human elements, you make the psychology more of the learning points versus just learning information, because information has no value unless the person on the receiving end can utilize it as valuable information. So we gather all this information. We're in an information era, but the problem is we don't know when to use it, how to use it, and who to give it to, because every individual is completely different. So Ted Williams is sitting in the dugout, and he's going, Mick, you rake, right? I'm going to go in my words. Mick, you rake, man. You're one of the best I've ever seen. You got more power than anybody in the history of the game. You got the longest ball in the history of the game, farther than Stanton, farther than Bonds, farther than all of them, right? So, and by the way, he came off of the physical therapy table. He wasn't even supposed to play that day. And why do you think that also helped? Because he wasn't thinking about his pregame BP and was it good or bad. He didn't even care. He got in the box and it was autopilot because he had nothing to refer to. Good BP, bad BP, nothing. It was just, it's time to hit. And he hit the longest ball in the history of the game. So Ted asked him, Ted goes, hey, Mick, how do you like grip the bat? And Mick's like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I just grip it. And he's like, well, what does your elbow do? He just starts breaking it down, right? And Mickey's so confused. He's a farm boy from Oklahoma. He learned how to hit with his dad trying to strike him out with tennis balls, right? Speed is one of the greatest teachers of mechanics because body will organize itself, right? The body will organize itself. And if speed is in the equation, my body has to find efficiency or I got to go become a librarian. I got to go do something else.
Right. Adapt or die.
Right. So Mickey's grandpa threw left-handed and his dad threw right-handed. So Mickey's dad would basically come out and he'd throw to him like for a half hour to an hour every night. And Mickey's dad was a miner. He knew nothing about mechanics, which is the greatest gift Mickey could ever have. And that's why the Dominicans are the best hitters in the game because they got no information. I mean, they have some. I don't want to take it away. They're brilliant. Part of the reason why they're brilliant is they keep it simple. So they got Mickey Mantle style. That's the way they teach it. So Mickey basically is learning how to hit velocity. His dad was trying to strike him out 30 minutes to an hour a day, right-handed. So Mickey's batting left. Grandpa comes off the couch and he throws right. So Mickey flips around. So dad's pumping right. Grandpa's throwing left. Mickey's just flipping and they're trying to strike him out. Well, he becomes one of the greatest switch hitters of all time with no coaching, by the way. His dad just said, be determined, be on time, keep your head down. Let's go, Mick.
Right.
It's time to eat. So then going back to the story of Ted and Mickey, so Mickey's so confused. He's going, man, Ted, you got me like thinking about all this stuff my body already does. So the next month was one of the biggest slumps of his career. He couldn't hit because he was thinking about grip. He's thinking about elbow. And by the way, there's style and there's individualism to every single human being and how their body moves. And when we think, we take a picture of Miguel Cabrera, we take a picture of Glavine, we look at his front side and we try to clone all of our kids to have the same glove action, right? Same front side. Let's just say Glavine's here.
Right.
Let's say he's here. Some guys are here. They're all over the place, right? I don't know where you are, but it doesn't even matter.
I don't even know.
It's like, right. But imagine if you started thinking about that because someone told you that Verlander is here. So you got your minor league roving guy, he pulls in, he's going off the Verlander model because Verlander is one of the best. So then he starts cloning you, and now you focus on that versus competing. Right. And the best pitchers and the best hitters are the best competitors.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's what it is because I look at it from like the sense of like just instilling those motor control patterns, right? Like you said, I forget I look this up at least once a week, but the law of the body organizing itself, I forget the guy's name who invented that, but it's fantastic.
Nikolai Bernstein.
Oh gosh, I love that. But it's so true because like we live in this generation, this era of information overload, right? And we're so focused on the skill development in good nature, right? Like everyone wants to improve their game, so they go, and look and seek out for this information, and then they kind of start thinking about it. The goal is to, okay, how can I instill these motor control patterns? How can I improve? How can I learn more about myself? And then once I get on the mound, have that cue, like you said, of compete, right? So like that's the goal. And that's something that it needs to be taught more about that mental capacity of understanding everything that you do well and understanding what it is that you need to think to allow you to do well. And then as soon as it like the lights turn on and a dude steps in the box, it's get out of your way, right? Like how is that being taught for somebody that, for a kid, for instance, who wants so much information, and wants skill development, but is constantly struggling with performance?
Well, I think that we first don't identify the main thing. And I've really been getting into acronyms. I actually wrote 14 pages of acronyms. I counted them the other day. So every day I'm writing these new acronyms. I memorize them because if I want to be a master teacher, the mind sets things up in organization. The mind likes to be organized. It files things. So if I talk to you for 5 minutes and the talk's over, you won't remember a week later one thing I said, maybe one. But if I give you something in bullet points and I give you acronyms, what happens? You will never ever forget. And I've been doing this with athletes I've been working with for the last 3 years, and it's crazy. They'll text me or call me or email me 3 years later, verbatim, and they'll give me like 2 pages, and it'll be all the acronyms. Coach, it's time to eat. I'm a big game hunter, and I can't be beat. CBB, BGH, big game hunter, CBB, can't be beat. It's time to eat. X2E. I mean, they're just reeling them off. And so the one that we usually start with is TMTK TMT, and it's a tough one. TMTK TMT, and that's the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. TMTK TMT, and that is the secret to everything. And that took me like 2 months to be able to say that. But what's interesting too is this: once your body can do it unconsciously, it will never forget ever. It's crazy. It's like riding a bike. So I've been really been focusing on the mental game probably last 20 years, but the last 3 years it's been like really intense. I write hours every day. And so the main things, the TMTK TMT, so it's just like riding a bike. Once you develop that motor skill or that skill, the mind or the body, whatever it is, it doesn't forget. Yeah. Once it's stamped as complete. So I can say it when I'm 80, I could say it when I'm 60, and I could say it right now without thinking, just like I know my name. And that's LYKYN, like you know your name. That's another acronym. And everything you do that you want to be the master of, it needs to be like you know your name. So what's your name? What is your name? What's your name?
Robby.
Did you have to think about it, Robby?
No.
Of course not. It was unconscious spontaneous movement. That's USMFS. That's another acronym. Unconscious spontaneous movement. Flow state. USMFS. So you memorize these. I create them and then I memorize. So what happens when I'm on the field, when you go USMFS, unconscious spontaneous movement, let's go. USMFS, flow state, flow state, flow state, flow state. We'll see when I as a coach or you as a player memorize acronyms, what happens is I can say one acronym and it tells you 10,000 words in a millisecond. So if I say TMT, literally you're like, oh man, I got to focus on the main thing. Or if I just say, hey, the main thing, Robby, the main thing. When I go out to a mound visit to you and I say, the main thing, get your mind right. And I just leave. That's all I need to say. I don't need to like start breaking it down and explaining. No, dude, you know what it means to get your mind right.
Right.
And back to the main thing, because the mind can only focus on one thing and it needs to focus only on one. So as a pitcher, the main thing is attack on every pitch. Commit. And if you could do that on every pitch, you'd be on the mound? The master. You'd be Pedro Martinez. Domination. And Pedro's trigger word was dominate. Dominate. Could you imagine every time before you threw the ball, dominate? You know what happened? You'd make so many pitches. Greg Maddux was make pitches. He focused on making pitches.
Right.
That's all he focused on. But you have to know what to keep the main thing. And most people, they're spending time on gathering information. The problem is when your son or whoever's playing, you're in the minor leagues or whoever you want over, is when you start to really realize what the main thing is. And that is too late. And we got an acronym for that. FIO, figure it out. You need to figure it out right now. And we have another acronym, AYY, above your years. You have to be above your years, and you have to figure it out right now, 16-year-old, A-ball player, rookie in the big leagues. You don't have time because someone else is going to take your job next year. Figure it out.
Right.
And why? Yeah. You got no chance is another one. YGNC. You got no chance unless you figure it out now. Now. There's no like tomorrow. You don't get a do-over. You don't get it. just because you want it. You get it because you figure it out. So you better figure it out. So if you don't know what to keep the main thing, and you go to practice and you're doing all these drills, pictures, right? And it's not even functional to when you're hitting, because the great hitters are the best competitors, and they're on time, and they have a plan, and they execute that plan. But who's working on game plans in practice? I mean, I would venture to say that 95% of all practice has nothing to do with developing your plan and executing your plan. So when we hit every day, it's what is your plan? Every time the hitter steps in the box, we have speed, pitch, shape, lane, location. We're going through those. It's like, what speed are you hunting right now? What lane are you hunting? What location are you going to drive this ball? And what pitch you hunting? So the three that we actually use, I have multiple ones that we kind of vary in and out. It's pitch, speed, it's spin, speed, pitch, shape, count, lane, location. Spin, speed, pitch, shape, count, lane, location. So we work on all those as we hit. Hunting speeds, hunting spins, hunting counts, hunting shapes. Well, how do you hunt a shape? Well, every pitch has a different shape. So now what we're doing is we're developing the eye and the mind. So when you get in the box, you actually can be unconscious. You're so well trained. It's like developing a soldier, and the situational awareness and your ability to have a process and execute it. So when you get in the game, you don't have to think. Everything flows like you know your name. It's so easy, but we don't train like masters. And so like I'll give you an example. Something I just came up with recently, and it's awesome. And I mean, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I will, because it's very special.
I'll do it.
And we're going to, and I always suggest that you use this too as a pitcher. So my one nephew, so basically what we're doing is so our training for his cardio is training for, so let's just say he's working on getting up to 40 pitch count. So what he has is an inner tube around his waist with a little clip, and the clip hooks into the fence. So he pulls out, and he basically gets a forward lean, and I say, go. Well, he has to sprint for 3 seconds as fast as he can. Then he stops for 15 seconds. He gets his 15 seconds between pitches. Well, you try to do that for 40 pitches. It's not easy. You'll be gassed. Now, so what he's developing is his ability to burst. So how functional is that? He's basically being functional exactly how now what we're doing is we're doing mental game within that. So within that, what we're doing is we're grading his level of intent and effort on every single burst.
Yeah, don't take a pitch off.
And if you take one of those 40 sprints off in those 3 seconds, you know what happens? So I ask him, once we get to, each inning is 12 pitches. So then he gets a little break. He gets like a 2-minute break, and then he's got to go again. And then we grade him. So we say, how many pitches did you take off? We're talking on a 20-80 or a 1 to 10 scale. We're talking 10. We're talking 10 intent. We're not talking, you got tired, so you gave me a 7 on that one, right? It's a 10. And we never measure the mental game. So now we're able to measure it because we're giving him these bursts like he's in the game. And then he holds himself accountable because he's learned that your level of intent and attack is everything. And so right now he just memorized the Pedro Martinez quote, which is so simple. But I told him, I go, if you don't know it like you know your name, because it took him 2 weeks, I go, it has no value. It has no purpose because to think about it. And when you play, you don't have time to think. So this is the quote, fear nothing. So this is Pedro. Fear nothing, throw all your pitches with conviction. Don't worry about results. Don't worry about anything, period. Now, if you literally could do that, that was your focus. I fear nothing. I throw all my pitches with conviction. And that's basically attacking on every pitch. I don't fear results. I don't worry about nothing. Well, that's Pedro. Then when you listen to Pedro's teammates, they say Pedro's mindset was domination. It wasn't, I hope I'm going to do good today, and my curveball doesn't feel good, and man, my last game, my elbow was bothering me. That's all drama.
Right.
Get your focus away from conviction on every pitch, right? So Pedro's conviction was, I'm going to dominate you. It wasn't like, and he was 165 pounds. He's 5'10" and a half. He's not like this superior human that you go, I mean, his stuff was superior, but there's a lot of guys with superior stuff that don't have the same numbers. Pedro's whip is the greatest of all time, like the greatest of all time. And he's 165 pounds. It's because he was a fearless warrior on the mound. So when we're doing this now, when he's doing these little intervals, they're 3-second intervals, right? 15 seconds off. Well, what happens is we grade his intent. I go, if you can't have 100%, 10 and 10 on every one of these, how are you going to go 40 pitches in a game and have an intent? Because your mind is vast and it will wander. Your mind is the master of wandering. There's nothing better the mind does than wandering, being distracted. So once you start understanding that, you go, really? Yeah, you're fighting the whole game against distraction. And now I know what the main thing is, right? Focus on the main thing. Don't get distracted. Commit to attacking in every pitch. And if I can throw all my pitches with conviction, you know what happens? It's over, because I'm not worried about nothing. And you know what happened? You take this guy, I mean, in high school, where my nephews go to school, he was a 5'9" starter. He's one of the best pitchers in the history of our high school. He threw 78 to 82 miles an hour, but he had 10 conviction on every pitch. And he dominated. We've had guys throwing 92, 88, all these guys rolling in there with half the records, half the numbers, because their minds were not right.
Yeah, it's so tough too, right? Because it's like the one thing that I think parents want to do is like sign their kids up for lessons and in-person stuff to improve their game. And then these lessons kind of instill this type of mentality where a kid throws a pitch and it wasn't right. So then he looks at the instructor, and then there's instruction, and then it's hands-on, and it's micromanaging. So then the kid gets into his game and he cuts a fastball down and away. And then all of a sudden goes through his mind about like, oh, was I not on time? Did I need to get my arm more time? Do I need to do this and that? So my big thing is like the breath, right? Like, or visualization, like identify what's going to allow you to execute pitches. And for me, like you said earlier, it was get out of your own way, get out of your own head. I'm an overanalyzer. I like to think, but I'm at my best when I'm just out there focusing on diaphragmatic 4 in, 4 out, box breathing, and just visualization, right? And like you said, man, there's so much importance and there's so much value to understanding that the body is so smart, so adaptable, and you just need to let it be the body. And that's one thing. How do you kind of are you a big breath guy? Like, what do you as far as like a mindset, practicing a specific thing for your guys during that competition, during that 5 second kind of battle between pitching and hitting?
Okay. Right. So we have so basically I've been over the years you hear people talking about the breath, and when you're out in the baseball community you see how few people breathe. So you go, okay, I can read a book on breathing. I can hear someone talk about meditation, but nobody does it. I mean, really, you think about the percentages that actually make it a daily practice on the field or in their life. It's probably 1%. Even today, right now, even though everybody's this trendy thing and everybody can talk about it. But just because you can talk about, I want to weigh 185 pounds, doesn't mean you're going to stick to your diet, right? Everybody talks about everything, but very few people can execute anything. So the breath is a cool, hip, trendy thing to talk about, but very few people use it or even know how to use it. And it goes back to simplicity. The masters take the complex and they simplify it. So the breath is not about complication. It's not about a 20-minute yoga session. It's not.
Right.
So we have this thing we call one breath. And I text my guys all the time. I just drop it on them. 1B now. Alan Jager's a good buddy, and I drop him on him all the time.
That's my guy.
Actually, I'm going to text him right now, and I'm going to say, give me a one breath. And it's very simple, and I'm going to show you what we do, because what we're doing now is we're challenging you no matter where you're at in your day. If you're driving, if you're stressed, if you got too much to do, whatever, you have to stop immediately.
Right.
That's the rule. Whatever you're doing in one breath is a one breath in 10 seconds. So it's 5 seconds inhale, 5 seconds exhale. You can do it any way you want. You can go 6 in, 4 out. You can go 4 in, 6 out. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it really doesn't, because I've been around ancient Indian gurus from I'm talking gurus from like American Indians. I'm not talking about from India, but those guys are pretty insightful over there too. I mean, I'm talking, you talk to anybody from American Indians to Indians from India, from monks to anybody. They all have a different breathing system.
Yeah.
It's not like everybody's saying it has to be 5 in, 5 out. Well,
yeah.
Some people
Wim
say
Hof.
it's all about, some people say it's in the nose and out of the mouth. I've been around one Native American. He says it's all about the mouth. And then I'm around Jager. He said it's all about the nose.
Right.
It has to begin. I mean, it's like going to the chiropractor, and they're all going to tell you something different. So breathe. Number one, breathe. I'll tell you that. Breathe deep and slow. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to text Alan right now. Deeper, slower, quieter, and more regular.
That's like when before we started recording, we were talking about the cold showers, right? about like kind of training that, putting your body in uncomfortable situations and then owning your breath, right? Because the first thing that happens when I go from the sauna to my cold tank is I get here, right? I get like super stressed and I tense up. My muscles are tense. Like I'm not comfortable. And how do you think you're going to perform like that? I've been on the mound a lot of times feeling so uncomfortable, not convicted in what I was doing. Therefore, my body's gotten tense. My mind started freaking rattling. And I didn't have that kind of cue to be like, yo, breathe, man. Like, you got it. Just, it's okay. And then everything relaxes, and then you're able to kind of focus on the task at hand. And that's why I think like there's something to be said about putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and practicing that, training that. I think we're in this era right now where we're so focused on skill development in these training settings, which is absolutely fantastic, but it's very comfortable settings. It's very comfortable drill progressions. It's very comfortable throwing programs. And I think once we do get out there and the lights turn on and there's a guy in the box and you're pitching at Yankee Stadium with 40,000 screaming, whether you like it or not, it's going to be uncomfortable. Now, how are you replicating that in your training? How are you replicating that in your skill development, right? Like, there's so much stuff that goes into it. But for you, what I know you served as a mental training coach, and I know my audience would be super interested to hear kind of what do those mental training sessions look like, and how do you kind of approach that if you were training that?
Yeah. So you were talking about the breath. So one of the mental training is simple. It's breathing daily. And so like yesterday, so I work with my nephews. I work with my nephews daily for about anywhere from 3 hours to 4.5 hours, roughly. We train every day. And so like, for example, every time the pitcher, because he finishes early because he can't do stuff for 4 hours, but the hitter can because he's got to work on his run tool, throw tool, hit tool, field tool, hit for power. I mean, he's got 5 tools. A pitcher is basically working on, controlling the running game, feeling his position, his delivery, multiple pitches, those types of things. Well, so his day is a little bit shorter. So what he does every time he finishes his day, he has to finish with a 6 breath. So he has to count to 60 and he has to go 1 to 10. That's 1 breath. Every time you get 10 seconds, it's another breath. So you inhale on 5 and you exhale on 5. So basically he's practicing breathing on a regular basis. That needs to become, and it doesn't have to be super long, because if it's something you do and you're familiar with,
right,
and you don't have to think about it, what happens is you will go to it.
Right.
But if it's only something you did once in a month and you did it for 20 minutes, it doesn't matter. You need to do small increments regularly. And if you do small increments regularly and you make it a practice, so before he leaves, he can't leave until he does 6 breaths. And 6 breaths is 6 breaths in 60 seconds. And then we created these little cards. So they go by your bed. It's a breathing card. We have them on TroskyRanch.com. We have a bunch of mental game stuff. We're just building the site now because I'm not a full-time mental guy. I mean, oh, cool. I do so many different things that I don't have time to really finish a lot of things. But what we've been working on, these mental game cards and these breathing cards. And basically the breathing card is very simple. So this is one of the cards right here, the Hunter.
Yeah.
And basically,
I couldn't see it because it's camo.
Are you kidding? Are you serious?
Okay, no, I'm kidding. It's camo.
Oh, you're just kidding. Okay, yeah, camo. And what it says on here, it says the big game hunter. I'm just not a hunter. I'm the big game hunter. That's a whole nother level of thinking. I'm not going out to shoot birds and beavers. I'm going out to get gators and boars. Okay, I'm getting after it. It's time to eat. So on the back of this card, it talks about the hunter versus the hunted. And I came up with a definition of each. And anytime you're succeeding, you're the hunter. Anytime you're struggling, you're the hunted. So it goes to pitching, it goes to hitting, it goes to base, it goes to everything.
Right.
And the hunter has no doubt in his mind, none whatsoever. It's full conviction and commitment. And he just lets the results take care of themselves. So like, here's another one. This is the pitcher one. This one's called the do. And the secret to anything is to commit to the do. So as a pitcher, what is the do? It's very simple. Make pitches. That's all I focus on. So if you give this to, so he puts it in his hat, and if he could literally just focus on making pitches, that means I'm committed to making this pitch on every pitch. Well, it's very, very, very simple. And what it says on the bottom, it says the masters of the game take the complex and make it simple. So what the idea with all these mental game cards, we have tons of them. It's taking a book and putting it in simplicity so that you don't have to try to memorize a chapter. is all I got to do is commit to the do and be the hunter. And I'll tell you what, everything's going to start taking care of it. Now you incorporate the breath. So we have the breathing card. And the breathing card goes by your bed. I think I have one right here, actually. So the breathing card is very simple, but it's a simple practice that you can do regularly. So what I'm working on right now is a morning mantra for everybody. So it's kind of sloppy, but this is the morning mantra. Now, what you have on it is a list of things you say when you get up. Right. First thing it says is get your mind. Now, I already have one that I use for my guys, and I use it every day myself. It begins with 6-Tool Nation, get your mind right. What you thinking right now? Better every day. So I go through this whole thing, and basically it gets your mind right. Well, pitchers need to have a mantra before they take the field right. Every time. And we call it a trigger phrase. So Rod Carew's trigger phrase when he stepped in the batter's box was very simple. I'm the best hitter and you can't get me out. He would say that every time before he stepped in. Well, you feel what you think. So if you want to feel confident, you got to think confident. So what Carew did is every time he had his trigger phrase and he said it over and over because the mind will remember what you last told it, right? Mm-hmm. So the trigger phrases are powerful. And I've been working with a big league pitching guy right now. And we completed a whole mantra before you, and it's very simple. Before you leave the dugout, you have to walk over. You got to look to the focal point. You have to give me a 1 breath. Yep. You can go 5 breaths if you want. You can give me whatever you want. You got to look. And then what you have to do is you say, I fear nothing. I fear no one. I can and I will. Then you look to the next box and it says commit. And then you just run out on the field. Well, what that's doing, you can change the words all you want. But the point is that you're constantly putting your mind in the place it needs to be. You're centering your mind because distractions, we already talked about earlier, is the key to the brain. The brain wants to be distracted. It wants to think about everything. What's that? What's that? What's that? Who's watching? Who's here? It's distraction, and that's the problem. So if I can refocus to not only to a focal point, breathing, relaxing, slowing down, right? Getting my heart rate, adrenaline under control, clearing my mind. Then once I clear my mind with the breath, I go right to my trigger phrase, and then I ran out on the field. So what am I last thinking about? My last thought. I fear nothing. I fear no one. Commit. Boom. It can be, for my nephew, he's using the Pedro one. Be fearless. Throw all your pitches with conviction. That's going to be his last thought every time he crosses. And we're practicing it. We're practicing it over and over and over like you know your name. And if you don't practice it regularly like you practice your changeup, you got no shot.
Right. Yeah. Motion memory.
No shot. And I was talking to the big league guy we were working with this with, and I basically had about 80 to 90% of it done. And I was pitching the ideas to him. And he goes, man, I got to have this. I go, what percentage of your pitchers in the big leagues have their minds right? I go, what percentage do you think in the whole big leagues? So I'm going to ask you that question. What percentage do you think big league pitchers actually have their mind right? Not for like an inning, not for a pitch. I'm talking for the duration. We'll look at the whole season. Let's just say he gets 30 starts. Out of those 30 starts, he throws, let's just say 100 pitches per outing. Let's just say he throws 3,000 pitches for his year. Let's just say 3,000 pitches. Out of those pitches, what percentage of the time do you think he is totally committed? Be fearless. Throw all your pitches. Yeah. Don't worry about results. Don't worry about nothing. 30,000 pitches. So what do you think?
Well, how do you quantify the mind? How do you quantify like the mind right? Just by like that, what you were just talking about for the pitcher? Well,
the way you quantify the mind is there's a mental sequence that the mind follows, and it's very simple. It begins with a decision. So we call it DCBA. And this is the way everybody's mind works, if you like it or not. So this is just tracking what the mind does. This is what the mind does so that the body can sequence. The mind will follow. The mind has a sequence that it has to follow. And once the mind sequences, the body will actually follow the mind. But the body can't sequence until the mind is right, because the mind is the motor and the fuel to the car. Take the motor out of the car sits. Your body is literally waiting. It's just waiting for your mind to direct it. And it's so powerful because you go, wow, your body has no intelligence and your body has no opinion. It's just waiting. And that's why when you get your mind right, your body will do whatever you think. And that's why average players can become great. Because what they do, Pete Rose is the greatest, arguably of all time, top 5 in the history of the game. Look at his numbers. Look at how many championships he won. Look at how many losing teams he made winning teams. He's got the most hits. The guy was a dominant force, and he had no tools. Okay, none. It's because his body followed, because he had a mentality that was at a whole nother level, and his body is just going along for the ride. So basically what we have is we have this sequencing. So it's a DCBA, and it's very simple. It's decide, clear, breathe, attack. So it begins with a decision. When you're on the mound or you're hitting, you have to make a decision, because the mind has to try to organize itself to accomplish the goal. So the decision is, what is the goal? That's the do. I'm going to make this pitch. I'm going to throw a fastball down and away. I'm going to sit on a fastball out over the plate. So you have to, first and foremost, have a decision. That's your goal. That's your plan. That's the do. And if you don't have a do, if you don't commit to something, if you don't have a destination, the goal, what happens is the whole sequence will run out of, will be off track.
Right.
Because you have to begin with a destination. So once you have the destination, what I'm going to do, what you do is you have to clear your mind. It has to be clear. You have to go to the unconscious phase of flow state. You have to, because you can't be in the zone when you're thinking at all. You have to be unconscious. So you go from the decision to clearing the mind. Decision, clear, and breath. The breath and the clarity go together. If your body has any tension at all, it will not sequence. And tension is a product of your thoughts. I hope I make this pitch. The last guy just shelled me.
Sure.
Whatever your thoughts are, okay? So now if I can't clear and relax, my body's out of sequence already. So first I have to start with my decision, the do. What am I going to do? And then I have to clear and relax. And then I have to attack with 100% conviction and commitment. I have to. Now that's a hitter. So if I'm looking fastball over the plate, I am totally committed to that pitch. I have no doubt. And doubt is basically the formula for being the hunted. And once you start struggling, you're the hunted, you're not the hunter. So the sequencing goes decision, decide, clear, breathe, attack. Decide, clear, breathe, attack. And once I can get that sequence going, my body will organize. And it's like, here it comes, baby, pounding the zone. And I threw another complete game shutout. Well, why? Because you're in mental sequence. Your mind is sequencing that your body will follow. It's just waiting. And we micromanage the movements, and the mind is out of sequence. You can do all the practice you want and keep practicing and do all your stuff, and it's not going to have any effect, because when you get on the mound or you get in the box, you get between the lines to play defense. If my mind is out of sequence, the body will be out of sequence every time. And it's very simple. On defense, it's making plays. I'm making this play. This ball's coming to me, then I clear my mind, I breathe. And if I'm in the right state of mind, I don't even have to think about breathing. If my thoughts are right, the breath actually unconsciously will be in order.
Right.
Because when you're confident, your breath never is off. You're balanced.
Right.
Because your breath's going to be a product of what you think about.
100%.
Now I'm relaxed right now. Your breath is perfect. Well, how come? Yeah. Because your mind is at ease.
I live in flow state.
Awesome. It's huge, because you're from Oakdale, baby.
Oh, yeah. All those guys live in flow state.
But you might live in flow state, but you can confess you already did. When you get on the mountain.
I don't compete in flow state. I got too much information on my mind. Yeah. But it's so true, right? Because like we're so focused on like the physical, this, train, this, that. It's like, man, it ain't going to make a difference, man, if we can't get out there and we can't get out of our way.
You can't. But we don't even teach them how to clear, and we don't make it a practice.
Right.
If you're not practicing, you got no chance. And that's why our training has to be, I mean, yeah, it's important, but like Kirk Gibson was like first rounder, bonus baby, the top guy in the draft years ago. And he was the guy who hits the home run, right? Against, was it the A's or was it the Cardinals? Who was it against?
A's.
I don't remember, but it was the A's. Okay. So
Eckersley
was on the mound, because Eckersley ended up pitching for the Cardinals later, right? So,
yeah.
But anyway, so it was the A's. So when he was talking about, I think he was wearing a Cardinals hat in one of his interviews. But basically, Kirk Gibson, Jerry Manuel is a friend of mine. He's a coach. He coached in the big leagues. He's got a World Series ring. He's from Sacramento, from Lincoln. He has the Jerry Manuel school up there. And basically, Jerry's with Major League Baseball now, doing a lot of player development stuff. And we were talking, and I said, Jerry, I'll be in the DR next week, and I've learned so much, not from necessarily them teaching me information, but just from watching. And Yogi was the best. He says, you learn everything by watching. Mm-hmm. So Yogi would say very little, and he would observe. That's why he was the master with 10 World Series rings. I mean, come on, Yogi's got 10 World Series rings, 3 MVPs. And he's like 5'6". I mean, really? And he's awkward. He watched, he paid attention. Well, I was telling Jerry, I go, I'm going back to the Dominican. What I've been learning for the last 10 years is how little of information they give their players, but they let the body self-organize. They go high number of reps, a lot of game speed stuff, and a lot of over and under speed stuff. And they let them play. They let them be athletic. And I go, that's my philosophy, because I was doing an interview for player development for Major League Baseball, and he was trying to decide, are we going to bring Nate in to do this stuff that he wants to bring in. So what happened was we were just talking, and he goes, I agree with you 100%. And he goes, let me just tell you a quick story. Kirk Gibson, when he was a bonus, he was the highest paid guy in the draft, and he was like first round, maybe first pick probably, but he's one of the top picks. He goes, he couldn't hit a curveball, and I was teammates with him in A-ball. And he goes, so what they did with Kirk is they just said, Kirk, every day you have to hit the curveball machine for 2 hours. No one told him anything on how to do it. It was pure, the body will organize itself to accomplish the goal of the activity. That's Nikolai Bernstein, right? Mm-hmm. The body will organize itself to accomplish the goal of the activity. The goal was to hit a line drive, right? So you throw him in there for 2 hours a day. Within 1 month, Jerry goes, Kirk could hit curveballs better than anybody. And he's the big, like that here, raking curveballs. And no one gave him any information, but he learned by doing. And that is the greatest way, because when there's not information, your body is actually brilliant and your mind is brilliant. Probably Dr. Norman Vincent Peale talks about one of his CDs about how it's the power of positive thinking. And he talks about how your brain actually problem solves immediately.
Right.
The number one task of brain is to problem solve. But if you're trying to help it problem solve, it will not problem solve.
Yeah.
That's what solitude is. You quiet your mind. And you know what happens? Immediately. So what happens is I'm in the batting cage. So think about this concept here. Okay. So we're talking about Kirk Gibson. Okay. He's in the cage. Now, if the brain's number one goal is to problem solve, he's trying to solve the problem because he needs to be a big leaguer, right? He's a first rounder. And if he can't hit a curveball, he's not getting to the big league. So his brain is brilliant. It's going, okay, Kirk, if we can fix this problem, you know what's going to happen? You're going to be in the big league. You're going to get everything you want.
Sure.
So what happens is he doesn't have the instructor, and they're telling him. Now, could you imagine if there was 3 guys in there kept telling him how to do it? Hey, Kirk, that's not right.
Yeah.
Close that. Try to really tuck that shoulder. So he's trying to tuck it, and he's trying to, right? He's trying. He's got artificial moves, right? So what happens is he'll never master it the way he mastered it. So what happened was his brain actually solved the problem. Within 1 month, he's the best curveball hitter in the organization. He's in the big leagues, and then his career was very good, right?
Yeah, decent.
No one told him. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. You go, so when he told me that story, that was just like a confirmation of like the 100 other stories.
Right.
Of going, you know what? This stuff is all. And then when you talk to pro hitters, man, they don't know what their knees are doing. And half the stuff that they tell you is wrong. It's not even what they're doing.
Well, it's the same thing with the A-Rod video, right? When that came out, it was like, dude, you didn't know what you were doing.
Totally.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's great, man. I've
exactly, but he knew it.
Yeah. Oh, you break it up. You there?
I can hear you good. So we have these breathing dots too, that we created, these focal point dots. They're very simple. Simply, they go on your, some major league teams have been talking to me about them recently, and they're very simple. And we have them on our website. And basically, this is the breathing card, actually. And this card actually is DCBA. So instead of breathing 1, 2, so you breathe up, you breathe down, you breathe up, you breathe down, you breathe up. Then you have a focal point in the middle for focal point breathing. Right. So you start with just focal point breathing, just clearing your mind, observing your breath, and just breathing for like 1 minute. And then you go to your 6th breath. And so you just go up and down this scale. This one is DCBA. The other one is 1 through 60. This is just DCBA over and over. So as you count, you go 5 seconds in, I just say DCBA, then I hold, then I go DCBA on the exhale instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now what I'm doing, I'm reinforcing decide, clear, breathe, and tack. I say it millions of times. So what do I think about when I'm pitching? Decide, clear, breathe, attack, right?
Right.
So I've bred it in my brain. So this is one of the breathing cards. And on the back, there's instructions. It's very simple. This exercise takes you like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And the beauty of it is you can do it in very little time. And it's not about doing it for 30 minutes once a week. It's about doing it in small increments and being consistent with it. So the focal points of the bat are awesome because basically you stick it on your bat and it holds you accountable. We have a little water drop. It's cool. It's like a little water droplet. There's a little dot in the middle, and that's your focal point. You stick it wherever you want on your bat,
right.
And you actually practice. So now we're actually hitting in the cages. You actually, before you step in, you actually practice because you have your focal point. And it's even a station sometimes where you're just going, hey, just practice your in-box approach, or how do you get off the bench, and how do you practice, getting your mind right. So these mantras, we're making these signs so we can put them in our dugout so the pitchers can walk over, take a breath, say a little mantra or trigger word, and then boom, gone. Hitters too. And I started doing it in the Dominican with some of our guys, and we have an academy in the Dominican Republic. And what we were teaching them to say is I know two things. I know what pitch is coming. I know what pitch is coming. See, the problem with hitters is they don't know what pitch is coming. And that's the greatest flaw, because when you have uncertainty in your mind, you can't hit. And the job of the pitcher is to create uncertainty. So if I know what pitch is coming to me, I told myself what pitch you're throwing me. You know what happens when it shows up and I believe it's coming? I crush it. Even if I slide, I have a chance to crush it. How about that? I have a chance.
Yeah. You're talking to a pitcher.
If you're throwing a 3-pitch mix, right? And I'm in the middle thinking, what if he throws a slider right now? Or what if his fastball's in, but what if it's away? I'm not between. So one is I know what pitch is coming. The other one is I'm the best hitter and you can't get me out. So they say that before they put their helmet on. And some guys like to say it 10 times. I'm the best hitter and you can't get me out. Over and over and over. So what are they thinking about as they're starting to get ready to hit? I'm the best.
Right.
And now I'm focused on positive thinking. So now I feel confident. Worried about my last at bat. I can't even remember my last at bat because my last thought is I'm the best and I know what pitch is coming.
Right.
So we practice it that way. Then we have the sticker we just came out with. So basically you can order those for your team. And it's simple. They just put it on their bat. It's very simple. So those are ways we practice the breath. And so the idea is how simple can we make this? Because it goes back to it. If anything's complex or confusing or takes too much time, no one's going to do it. And that's why nobody, by the way, is breathing. I mean, Cal State Fullerton, they breathe. There's a few college teams. You see them on the College World Series. That's a small percentage. And half those guys that are breathing, you don't even know why, if they even know why they're doing it.
Yeah, they're just doing it to do it.
You wonder if it's just like, I mean, how about even taking even a cold shower? I mean, like the cold shower, if you're not really reminding yourself, because when you get in the cold shower, your body locks.
Sure.
Right? But the two things that you said is I want to be in control of my breath because my breath speeds up when the cold water hits me. So one, I'm focused on my breath. And the one that I've learned being in the cold showers is that your whole body, you'll have tension in your calves.
Yep.
Your lower half will get really tense. You're like, everything's just locked. But how do you think you feel when you're worried on the mound or as a hitter in the box? So once I have a link of tension, any link in my body, there's no sequencing. So just stepping in the shower, am I really conscious of the two things I'm focusing on, the main thing? Or do I just take a cold shower and go, I did it? Oh,
yeah. I can say I did it now.
You have to, but you got really good at being tense and hyperventilating.
Right.
Right?
Take complete ownership of your breath.
Ownership. So anyways, I knew we'd go over 45 minutes.
Oh, I was gonna say, I gotta let you go, man. But I could sit about this. I could talk about this stuff all day. I mean, it's so good. But thank you for sharing, dude. I want to ask you one more thing. Where can my audience find you on online, social media, and all that? Go ahead and blast that out.
Okay. Trosky Baseball is Twitter. Trosky Baseball is Instagram, and then 247. I think YouTube is Trosky Baseball. I think it's Trosky 247. I can't even remember. I think it's 247 Trosky or 247 Trosky Baseball. And then Trosky Ranch is where we have the mental game components. We also have this infield footwork series and all the other stuff that we're coming out with. And then Trosky Baseball website is just for camps. I run college showcases, player development showcases, metric showcases that are helping players get scholarships. And we've had over 7,000 players in the last 15 years go to college and either get a scholarship or get an opportunity, pro ball or college. So we do a great job with that. And we have infield camps. I work with Trent Mongero, and we're doing these national camps. We have 12 set up right now in 12 states. starting in the summer. Hopefully we can kick off the first one. We'll see what happens. And then I work, so lots of great stuff. We're really the social media and all this stuff. I've really just started focusing on the last year. I mean, we have a lot of videos up, and I would just do them just for fun and just randomly. But now I'm saying, this is really important because I have these kids tweet me all the time, showing they're in their garage doing all these drills. I mean, it's powerful, changing lives. I mean, it's incredible to be able to have an impact. So to me, there's nothing greater than to have an impact, but also what kind of impact are we having? Because we talk about information has no value unless it's interpreted properly and you know how to utilize it. It's dangerous. And that's why American players are struggling. The Dominicans are dominating because of less information or keeping the main thing. So we need to be careful and identify what's the main thing, and then attack that main thing. And as a pitcher, let me just ask you, what's the main thing? What is your mind space? Where does your mind space need to be for you to be at your best, for you to be in the place to dominate? Is it attack? Is it suave?
Honestly, I identified later in my career that I'm at my best when I'm in complete gratitude and enjoyment of the task. Like as soon as I got like super like, I got to do this. I have to do this. I have to do this. And then I got to that point where I was like, no, dude, I get to do this. Right. And as soon as I got to that mental space, that's when my performance took off. But it took 10 years of identification. Right. It took 10 years of figuring out, okay, what is it going to be for me that's going to allow me? I can listen to Pedro. I can listen to the greats, the Roger Clemens, right? Those mentalities, those killer dog-like assassin mentalities that they had. But who knows if that was for me, right? Who knows if I start to incorporate that it's going to work for me, right? Obviously, there's commonality traits that everyone possesses that do it at a high level. But for me, it was like, no, dude, I know that for a fact when I'm at my best, I'm having fun. I'm grateful for the opportunity. And that propels me to perform at maximum potential. So again, that's something that everyone has to kind of identify, right? So, man, I won't take up any more of your time. I got to be respectful of your day, but thank you so much for coming on, man.
I want to say something just real quick on that thought, real quick.
Yeah.
One of the pitchers I was talking to recently, who was a big league pitching coach, he told me basically, he said, it's the same story as you. He said, 10 years in, I pitched for 10 years in professional baseball, and only 2 years I had success. It was, I didn't change my delivery or anything. Not even mattered. It was just getting my mind right and knowing how to get my mind right. And for him, it was always, I can, I will, versus I hope, I think. So he said, once I committed to I will, it was over. But it took him 8 years to get there, and it was too late. For you, it was gratitude and enjoying the game. So Scherzer was talking on Twitter on this video. He was just saying, all that breath stuff for me doesn't do nothing. Right. Because I just get up and like basically get after it. So you got to figure out, what makes you tick but it has to begin somewhere. And so what I like to do with guys, I say there's 3 areas. Where are you? Identify your mind space. So for you, so basically say happy, neutral, or angry. So there's 3 places your mind could be. You're either happy, neutral, just tranquilo, even, or you're angry. Tranquilo. So for me as a hitter, we do that with our hitters. We say, are you an angry hitter? Are you a happy hitter? Are you a neutral hitter? And I would say more than half say neutral. About 20% is about happy, and about another 20-ish, 30-ish is angry. But this is the thing I want to just close with, because we would say with a pitcher, find your mind space, identify it, then own it. Now, last thing I'm going to say, just because you think you're good as a happy pitcher, you might want to try being an angry pitcher too. Sure. You might be better.
Throw it up against the wall, see if it sticks.
Because you're in high school, you're in college. Yeah, exactly. Right. So experiment with different mind spaces, and you're going to find what works best for you. And that's the secret, right? Practice, identify, and then execute. So anyway,
intentional practicing. Absolutely. Yeah. Right. Love it, man. Well, hey, I'll sign you off the air, man, but thank you so much for coming on and taking a good chunk of your day.
Double R, baby.
Appreciate you.
Sure, brother. The railroad man.